It's asking for a login, and you can't download it without a login. Did you have to log in?
I didn't either, Kyle. I got it.
Well, as long as you have it.
Yeah, I got it.
It's also probably just name all
Technology.
bathroom.
But you tried. Points for trying.
New thing, computers. No, it's because I haven't set up my Bixby.
We're just waiting on one last person from the Justice Coalition to be here. It takes about 5 minutes, and then we'll get started. So didn't want everybody just sitting here kind of staring blankly.
to get it started in just a moment. Do we need to have all of these, devices here? Is that to pick up sound?
Yes.
Okay. I think it'll be fine.
What do you need to put up there?
And it's just a little cumbersome. It kind of makes the podium not particularly usable at all. But I don't know that it's really going to be all that necessary. So I think,
How are we gonna put
are you
some?
okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if I have to, I mean, we'll work around it. We'll do what we gotta do. It's fine.
Give us just, we'll be ready to start.
Okay. Okay. Do you know how to do this? Put these on, or? Okay, they're already set up, so I can say what I gotta say. Okay. Okay. Listen up. Right here.
He's representing the Gonzales family in a federal lawsuit pending here in Austin against the city of Austin and 2 APD police officers. As most of you know, this lawsuit arose out of the death of their son, Alex Gonzales Jr., who was shot and killed on January 5th, 2021, in an APD officer-involved shooting. We're here today to provide the press and the public important updates on recent events in the case, and to provide a briefing on case-related information that can finally now be shared with the public. Allow me to give you our agenda for the press conference. First, you will hear from Elizabeth Gonzales, who is the mother of Alex Gonzales Jr. She'll spend about 3 to 5 minutes giving you her perspective on the case information that we'll be sharing with you today. Then we will hear from Dawn Puckett, who is the lead attorney in this case, representing the Gonzales family. Dawn is going to play you about 5 video clips and then also share some important briefing with you. And overall, I think his presentation will be maybe 15 minutes. After that, you'll hear from Mrs. Gonzales again, and then we will open up questions to the press. Afterwards, Dawn and Elizabeth, as well as myself and other members of our team, Mr. Jeffrey Hines, will be here for most of the afternoon to answer any other questions that you may have. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mrs. Gonzales.
Good morning. As you know, my name is Elizabeth Gonzales. I want to start by thanking all of y'all for being here today. I want to thank the press and all the citizens of Austin for continuing to honor the memory of my son, Alex Gonzales, Jr. for the last 3 years. Going back to January 5th, 2021, the day my son Alex was very hard and painful. I'm not knowing what happened, what had really been the hardest part. That is what made it so difficult for me and my family to begin the healing ourselves for the loss of our precious Alex. In the public appearance and the statements over the last 3 years, y'all have heard the anguish in my voice. Y'all have heard the anger in my voice, in the words that I say. But today, I want to let y'all know, I have found a way how to begin to heal. I found a way that I can turn a little bit of that pain into something positive. I found a way that I can redirect some of that grief and some of that anger into something good. I found a way for me, the source of my healing is to roll up my sleeves and do some of that hard work, do some of that work that's very hard for me to do. For being a social justice advocate, not just for myself, not just for my family, not just for my son Alex and his memory, but for all of us. My healing begins by working for social justice for the people of Austin. When my son Alex was killed by APD on January 5th, 2021, Austin Justice Coalition has been there for me and my family. AJC has stood with us and supported us every step of the way, and I thank them for that, really do. From the bottom of my heart, I really do thank them. On October 2022, I was accepted into Austin Justice Coalition Advocate Fellowship Program. Nearly every Saturday, I was there with my fellow attendings at Austin Justice Coalition Advocate training classes to learn skills of each of us need to advocate for social people, and it's not to make positive change happen. I'm sorry. And it's to make positive change happen. Last October, after 1 year of advocacy training, I graduated at our Austin Justice Coalition Advocate Training Program. I am joined here today by most of my AJC training classmates, and I thank them. And if they want to, they can stand up for us and let them know that they're here for my support. Austin Justice Coalition. And at the end of this press conference, I will announce a call to action for the citizens of Austin. But first, I need to introduce you to someone, which is my lawyer, Don Pluckett, of the Divine Law Firm. And he is the lead attorney representing our family in the federal civil rights, because we have filed against the city of Austin and against the responsibility about APD officers. I am so proud of my legal team that Don has put together. I am so proud of the work that they are doing in my case to help my family and to help the citizens of Austin and to learn the truth about what happened. With that, I will turn things over to my attorney, which is Don Pluckett, and I'll come back and talk my second round.
Thank you. Good morning. Appreciate everyone being here. My name is Don Puckett of the Devlin Law Firm. And as some of you may know, a couple of years ago, I had spent about 20 years doing patent litigation, kind of a science and technology practice, and I changed my career path so that I could do something different, and specifically so that I could represent clients like Elizabeth Gonzales and her family. And so it is such a privilege and a pleasure for me to be able to do this work. As it turns out, that my past in patent litigation turns out to be good preparation for this case, because as we start to talk about the facts and as the public starts to understand the facts about what happened, that getting to the truth in this matter is actually going to require an understanding of a lot of forensic evidence, a lot of laboratory science, and those types of issues. And this litigation is a very expert, heavy case, if you will. But we'll perhaps get back to that in a moment. The first topic that I'd like to address at this press conference is the topic of confidentiality. So there have been materials that have been made available to the public for the first time prior to this press conference. We had to very carefully redact some of those materials and make sure that we were not releasing anything that has been designated as confidential under a protective order entered by the court. I sent a letter to the City of Austin about a week or so ago raising this confidentiality issue, advising them that the Gonzales family intended to file a grievance with the Office of Police Oversight. And in response to that letter and in conversations with the city attorney, I can confirm that the City of Austin maintains its position that any documents or materials produced with respect to the internal affairs investigation are still designated as confidential in the case, and we are not authorized to share any of those materials to the public. We have called on the City of Austin to release those confidentiality designations and to allow us to fully release, or for the City of Austin to fully release, the internal affairs investigation file from this case. But as of this time, the city has not done so. And I can also report that the basis for the city's position is its contention that the internal affairs file resides within their G file, and so for that reason cannot be disclosed to the public. So for that reason, it's taken us a little longer to be able to process some of this information and to release the information, particularly video clips, because we have to be very careful about making sure that we follow the court's protective order, which we absolutely intend to do at all times. So with that, I want to pivot now to some of the actual factual information that we're allowed to release to the public for the first time. So prior to this press conference, we circulated a copy of a formal complaint with the Austin Office of Police Oversight that was filed by the Gonzales family just yesterday. And there's a lot to talk about coming out of that document. But I suspect that the lead for most of you folks tomorrow might have something to do with the revelation for the first time that Officer Gutierrez, that his official account of what happened that night, the early morning hours of January 5th, 2021, in his account, in his own words, in his story, is that he never saw the passenger in the car, Jessica Arellano, before he shot her 3 times. His official version of events is that he never saw her. And I think that just the revelation of that bare fact is going to take a little time, perhaps, for members of the press, the public, to wrap their mind around a little bit. What does that mean exactly? What do you mean he didn't see her before he shot her? And so what I want to do at this press conference is play a series of 5 clips for the recent deposition. And the reason that I want to play the particular clips that I'm going to play here today is because these involve testimony that isn't captured on the deposition transcript. It's not captured in the words, because a lot of what's happening in this deposition testimony is visual. He's being asked to demonstrate his body movements, and so this is the kind of testimony that has to be watched. It won't come through on a deposition transcript. So if you'll give me just a second to get my computer back up, but I'm going to play the first of 5 deposition clips that I'm going to play today. Apologies.
You shot Alex Gonzales, you saw him, right?
Yes, sir.
How could you see him if you couldn't see Jessica?
There was
As you claim.
there was no obstruction between him and I. I could see his entire body. I could see his right arm extended, the firearm he had pointed against me at my face, and I could see his face, and he had his hoodie up.
Okay. So Jessica Ariana was kind of in the seat, visible from the window. You ought to have been able to see her, right?
Objection. Calls for speculation. Facts not in evidence.
If she was within my view, then I would imagine I would have seen her.
Right. And your view is your eyes, right? You're looking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you were looking into the window of Alex Gonzalez' car?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're aware that Jessica Ariana was sitting in the front seat, right?
Yes, again, after the fact.
So the video clip that you just saw corresponds to page 23, line 20 through page 24, line 2 of the deposition transcript. All of the video clips that you see today have been provided in the press kit, plus many additional videos. And so what you just saw in that clip was what you'll see sort of over and over through the deposition transcript and some of the clips that we see, which is that...
Each actually in front of the mic to tell us that. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
So the clip you just saw, Mr. Gutierrez was given an opportunity to describe his version of the events, and then after he described his version of the events, was then confronted with a fact that was alleged to be inconsistent with those events or his description. And in this particular case that you just saw, that fact was Jessica. When you described the events, you forgot about Jessica was sitting there. So that's what you just saw. Now, in this next short clip that you're about to see, and again, the attorney questioning here is Mr. Jeff Edwards. He's the attorney for Ms. Arellano. So in this short clip that you're about to see, it's a very short clip, but there are 3 important things that are going to happen fairly rapidly in the next clip that you're about to see. And in particular, this is where, about halfway through this clip, where the physical demonstration aspects of what you're going to see become very important. Okay.
Anyway, your testimony is what your testimony is. I'm just asking you, like, you lowered a window, you looked out at a gun pointed at you, and you unholstered a weapon in which you probably unbuttoned the holster as well. You grabbed the weapon, you turned, and you fired 6, 7, 8 times into a car. And you saying you did that in 2 to 3 seconds.
Again, I didn't say I probably unbuttoned it. I say I may or may not have. There's times where I keep it unbuttoned.
Fair
as
enough.
well.
Let's focus on the time. You did all that in 2 to 3 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're telling the jury that the gun wasn't already in your hand, unholstered, ready to go.
Correct.
If it had been already in your hand, ready to go, would you agree that that would have been terrible police work? Actually,
Yes.
let me ask it a different way. If you did have the gun already in your hand, ready to go, that would have been unacceptable as both a private citizen and a police officer, correct?
Yes.
And that's because there was no threat of imminent harm that would have justified you having your gun out prior to having a gun pointed at you by Alex Gonzales, under your words, correct?
I'm sorry, repeat the question one more time. I apologize.
It's okay. And the reason it would have been unacceptable and off the charts unreasonable, frankly, for you to have your gun already in your hand, ready to go, is because prior to the gun actually being pointed at you, as you say, by Alex Gonzales, there was no threat of serious bodily injury or imminent death that would justify you reaching for a weapon, let alone shooting a weapon, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, now I will ask you to kind of enact that, okay? So let's, if you could show me what you did, and you may have to stand up, or you maybe back up so you're sitting, like you're sitting driving, right?
Do you mind if I take this off?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And will you be able to hear him? Okay. All right. And so I want you to just show the jury. Now, your left hand is on the steering wheel and your right hand is on the gear shift, okay?
Yes, sir.
And from the point where you go to the window, then I assume your hand goes back up to the steering wheel?
Again, I don't recall at what
Okay.
point I hit the window.
Well, let's start with hit the window and then show me what happens and just show me exactly what you see and what you recall doing, okay?
Okay, so hand on the steering wheel.
Okay.
Right hand on the, wherever I keep it here on the shifter.
Gotcha.
All right. So I look over, oh shit, grab my weapon, boom, 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 boom.
Okay. Now, could you do that again?
Yes, sir.
Hand on the steering wheel, go to the window,
Okay.
okay, and then shoot.
Boom, 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 boom.
Okay. All right. Could you do it one more time? Hand on the steering wheel,
Well,
go to the window, and then.
So the clip cuts off there because there was an exchange that happened between the attorneys, so there wasn't an additional physical demonstration there. It was actually kind of a humorous exchange. But essentially in that short clip, what you saw were three things. The first was what attorneys sometimes refer to as a lockdown, or sort of getting the witness to commit to a certain version of events, particularly with respect to the timing, what happened within a short window of time. The second thing was then the witness was confronted with a particular fact, and that is you shouldn't have drawn your gun prior to this, right? And then the third thing that happened was this sort of this lockdown, if you will, or giving him an opportunity to give his version of the events again, now with a physical demonstration. So those three things were very important. I want to turn now to the next clip, and this kind of goes several hours forward in the deposition. Mr. Edwards had finished his questioning, and at this point I had begun my questioning. And it's sort of an introduction to this. What you'll now see in the series of three clips is where the witness is cross-examined on just sort of the basic notions of memory for a person with having personal knowledge, whether you have or I should say, first of all, perception. Did you accurately perceive an event? Your memory, do you remember it correctly? And then sort of your veracity. But particularly this on memory and perception, there was a long discussion where the witness and I had a very clear understanding of what I mean when I'm talking about perception and memory, in particular, contrasting that with having a habit and routine practice of doing something versus actually having an actual memory based on your own perception. So I just want to preface that with that. Let's start the next clip. Well, let's go back to this idea of you turning it into to your own apartment complex. So we're back on Wickersham, within this little window where window of time where Alex pulls up next to you. Can I ask you for a moment to put your hands out as if they're on a steering wheel and just demonstrate for me as Alex is pulling up to you in this time period where you say that you were about to turn it left into the apartment complex. Can you show me, as best you recall, what your hand movements would have been like? Did you actually turn the wheel?
Like as if I would have been turning into the complex?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just usually have one hand on the wheel. I would have just turned it to the left.
Okay, you usually have one hand on the wheel, and so you would have turned it to the left. But that's all your habit and your routine practice. That's not what you actually remember, right?
Correct.
And you don't actually have a memory as to whether or not you turned the wheel left or not. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. Would you agree with me that if you did not actually turn your wheel to the left to attempt to make a left-hand turn, then it really wouldn't be fair to say that Alex cut you off from making a turn into your apartment complex? Is that fair?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because I was slowing down to make my turn and I was preparing to make my turn.
You were preparing to make a turn.
Yes, sir. And you said that's if I hadn't turned my wheel already. That's what I'm saying. I'm preparing to make my turn.
So one of the 5 specific grounds that we point to in the complaint that was filed with the Office of Police Oversight was we have asked them to investigate whether he previously provided a false description of the events by describing it as a road rage incident, in particular saying that he was cut off as he was trying to make a left-hand turn into his apartment complex. On the next clip that you're about to see, this is where I began cross-examining him on very small particulars of those movements. This clip is a little longer than the others. I think it runs about 10 minutes. But I think it's very important for everyone to begin to understand the events. And so that's what you're going to see here. Okay, so then let's talk about the actual mechanics of you drawing your gun and firing. And so what I want to do is just sort of take you through this step by step. So let's start with the first, which is you've looked over to your left. Your testimony is that you saw Alex with a gun pointing at you, and then you instinctively reacted from there. Is that a fair summary of your testimony?
Yes, sir.
And so because you reacted instinctively, you didn't really do anything else before you started turning and reaching for your gun. Is that fair?
I just ducked, yes, sir.
So, and you said it was possible that you may have not have rolled your window down until after you saw Alex with the gun. Is that right?
So when I saw Mr. Gonzales with the gun, the window was already down.
So then your window was already down.
Yes, sir.
So then you did roll your window down at some point before you saw the gun. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's why I said I rolled it down at some point from the time that he swerved to the time that we came to a stop.
Okay. So here's what I want to do. So just as best you can recall from your memory, I want you to take me through the steps of what you did next. And let's just sort of take it one step at a time, okay? So you've perceived Alex. You've perceived him pointing a gun at you. Your instincts kick in. In terms of your body movements, what's the next thing that happens?
Okay. So we're at the point that he's swerving, or we're at the point that I've been looking over and there's a gun at me? Right?
We're at the point now where you look over and your testimony is that there was a gun pointed at you.
Okay.
So in terms of your physical movements, what do you remember doing next?
I remember ducking, saying, oh shit, grabbing my gun.
Okay, let's take it one step at a time. I just want one at a time.
I'm sorry.
So the next thing the first thing that you would have done after your instincts kicked in, the first thing is you duck?
Yes, sir.
Or you start to duck?
Begin ducking.
Okay. And then as you begin ducking, if you could just sort of illustrate for me sort of how far you duck before the next thing happens. Okay, so as you're ducking, then what?
Grab my firearm, and then I point it.
Okay, wait, so we're doing one step at a time. So the next step was you grab your firearm.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this point, the firearm is still in the holster.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is the strap on that holster?
I don't recall if it was buttoned or not.
You don't recall. Okay.
Yeah, there's times that I have it clipped on, and there's times that I don't have it clipped on.
And so since you don't have a habit or a routine practice on that point, then you don't have a memory. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
But where you do have a habit or a routine practice, you've been testifying that you remember stuff, right?
Some of it.
Okay. So you don't know whether there was the strap was buttoned or not. So you grab your gun. Did it come out of the holster cleanly?
Yes, sir.
Didn't have to fumble at all?
No, sir. There was no resistance or fumbling whatsoever.
And then, so when you pull when you unholster the gun, does it pull sort of straight out?
Yes, sir.
Now, how far are you leaned back at that point?
up against my center console that was right here.
Now, at the time that you began pulling that gun out of the holster, are you continuing to lean back more in the same direction that you were going, or are you stationary or going back? So describe to me the movement of your torso or your body as the gun is coming out of the holster.
So I ducked until I could, really couldn't duck anymore, and I could still see Mr. Gonzalez's, upper torso and his head as I was drawing the firearm.
Did you have to turn your head and look down in order to put your hand on the firearm?
I don't recall turning my head and looking down, grab the firearm.
So you don't remember whether you maintained eye contact with Alex or whether you turned your head to look for the gun?
I don't remember 100%. I feel like that I kept eyes on Mr. Gonzales the entire time.
If the strap was buttoned on the
Clip-on button.
And are you familiar enough with the location of that holster that you can just sort of grab it without looking?
Yes, sir. I put it in the same spot every time I got in my vehicle.
Is this some sort of a maneuver that you've practiced?
No, sir.
It's just first time under pressure, you're able to just execute it flawlessly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're retrieving the gun from the holster and drawing it out, and so is it your testimony that from that angle you're still able to see Alex Gonzalez's head?
Yes, sir.
And you're still able to see his body?
Yes, sir. There's the upper part of his torso.
You had a clear sight line from where you were leaned back to draw the gun to be able to see Alex in that position?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so did your body continue, as you said, you sort of leaned back, so the direction that you're going, did your body ever pull back in the other direction towards the red car at any point?
Not that I recall or that I can confirm that I did or didn't, because I don't know.
And you said that you were aiming at Alex when you fired the first shot, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what part of his body you were aiming at?
So, center mass, the upper part of his torso, because it's the largest target on him at the time.
Did you hit him with the first shot?
I don't recall which shot hit Mr. Gonzales in the head.
Did you see one of the shots hit him in the head?
No, I didn't see that he was hit in the head until after I stopped firing.
So you didn't actually see Alex get shot at all? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I didn't see the moment that he was impacted by the bullet. No, sir.
Do you know whether you shot Alex first or Jessica first?
No, sir.
Do you know how many times you shot Alex?
No, sir.
When you fired the first shot, did you have your eyes fixed on the target of your gun?
Yes, sir.
And your testimony is that target was Alex's torso.
Yes, sir, the upper part of his torso.
And after the first shot, we all know there was sort of a barrage of shots right there, but after the first shot, did you continue to fall backwards?
No, sir. I went back as far as I could because my center console's right there, and it was in a small sedan and a little bit bigger of a guy, so that I remember the passenger seat hitting my shoulder, and I was up against the center console, so I was kind of stuck where I was. I couldn't move any further back or lay further back if I wanted to.
Were you able to fall back far enough that it provided some degree of cover or protection for you?
feel like since I could see him, that he was still able to keep me in his sights as well.
So what about after the first shot? Did you continue to have your eyes fixed upon the target of your gun?
Yes, sir.
And so what were you looking at after that first shot?
Mr. Gonzales still. Is the upper part of his torso still.
And did you continue to look at Alex and his upper torso as you fired all of the shots in your magazine?
Yes, sir.
But somehow, as you kept your eyes fixed on Alex and fired a number of shots in succession, you somehow managed to hit Jessica 3 times?
I don't know how many times I hit her, sir.
You know you hit her.
After the fact, yes, sir, I learned that I hit her.
Even though you just testified that your eyes stayed. Now, you shot multiple times something that you somehow couldn't see?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any explanation for that?
Firearms have recoil, and it could have been as the firearm was recoiling that the next shot went off. That's the only explanation that I can think of.
Do you think it's also possible that your eyes just weren't accurately perceiving events at the time?
No, sir.
Not possible.
No, sir.
You're going to tell the jury that it's impossible that you kept your eyes fixed on the target of your gun, but somehow just didn't see what was in front of it? Impossible?
No, I saw what was in front of it. I saw Mr. Gonzales in front of it.
Well, some of those bullets found their way to Miss Arellano.
I understand that.
So at some point in time, she was in front of that gun, wasn't she?
Apparently.
Apparently. Okay. Sorry for a few glitches there, but I think everyone saw the important parts. There's one final clip that I want to show that sort of brings everything together. This clip that you're going to see, just to appreciate things, it's occurring pretty late at night. This is a 10-hour deposition. We started at 10 o'clock in the morning. I think we finished about 11:45 at night, 10 hours on the record. So we're getting pretty late in the evening. Just prior to this, Mr. Gutierrez, or Officer Gutierrez, had been questioned about his enthusiasm for playing the video game Call of Duty. In particular, we asked him about his familiarity with a phrase that people who play that game sometimes use. This phrase in games is called spray and pray. The technique in video games where people sort of spray gunfire with reckless abandon because a friendly fire mode is turned off on the video game. So that's the way in which Officer Gutierrez tends to play Call of Duty, and he was familiar with the phrase, and so that's the sort of context for the last clip here that I'm going to play. Be appropriate for a law enforcement officer. Is there any scenario that you can even envision or imagine in which a law enforcement officer would be reasonable in using a spray and pray technique?
No, sir.
Just as a bright line rule, spray and pray for a law enforcement officer is something that you should never do. Is that right?
Correct.
Isn't that what you did when you shot at Alex and Jessica? Did you spray and pray?
No, sir.
You leaned backwards and you just started firing rapidly, right?
No, sir. I aimed at Mr. Gonzales.
Right, but you hit Jessica 3 times, who you claimed that you didn't even see, right?
No, I don't know how many times I hit her, but I understand now that I hit her.
Have you looked at any of the photos where the crime scene folks harvested the bullets that you left on the scene?
No, sir.
So you haven't seen the spray pattern that you left there?
No, sir.
What would you call that tactic that you used, your maneuver where you fell backwards and grabbed your gun? Do you have a name for it besides spray and pray? Is it called something else?
Yeah, I aimed at Mr. Gonzales and I shot at my target. It's targeted fire.
You say you aimed at his torso.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hit his torso?
I don't know.
Why don't you know?
I haven't been told.
Because you couldn't see where you were firing?
No, it's not that I couldn't see where I was firing, but it's hard to see bullet wounds through clothing, and he was wearing a black hoodie.
So, as part of your training, for firearms training, you're trained to, if at all possible, keep your eyes always fixed on the target of your gun. Is that right?
Yes, sir. You keep your eyes on the target.
But in this situation, you fired 7 or 8 bullets, and you didn't actually see what any of them hit, right?
No, sir, it's not true.
What's not true about it?
Again, I saw that I had hit him on the right side of his head.
You saw that at the time you fired the bullet?
Yes, sir. Once
The
I had
impact?
stopped firing, I saw the wound to the right side of his head.
But that's after the fact. I'm talking about when you shot the bullets, at that moment, you didn't actually see what any of them hit. Is that right?
No, I didn't see which round specifically hit him. No, sir.
That's not my question. My question is, did you, with your own eyes, actually see what any of those bullets actually hit at the time the impact was made?
No, sir. Bullets travel at thousands of feet per second. I can't see a bullet hitting something.
But when you're at the firing range and you have your gun pointed at a target and your eyes are fixed on the same target, you can observe when the bullet makes an impact on that target, can't you?
It's a high contrast piece of paper, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. And when you're at the target range for your qualifications, at what distance do you shoot those targets?
Up to 25 yards.
25 yards.
Yes, sir.
And how far away do you estimate that Alex was from you when you shot him?
5 to 10 feet.
Okay. But you didn't spray and pray?
Correct.
So that's the end of all the clips that I'm going to play. There's a lot of other additional information that the public is learning for the first time as a result of the opioid complaint that we filed and the documents and information we're able to publicly release today. But we wanted to focus on sort of this aspect of the case. When this event happened, Officer Gutierrez called 911, told the operator that there had been a road rage incident, that Alex Gonzales had cut him off as Officer Gutierrez was attempting to make a left-hand turn into his apartment. Alex Gonzales had pointed a gun directly at Officer Gutierrez at his face. That was what he said to 911. Those words immediately were sort of out in the public discourse over this event about what happened. That narrative took hold. And in the last 3 years, there essentially has been no additional information released to the public regarding the facts and events of what actually happened inside that very short 2-second window of time in which Alex's car pulled up next to Officer Gutierrez, and almost immediately, less than 2 seconds later, a barrage of gunfire was unleashed from Officer Gutierrez's car, his unmarked off-duty personal vehicle, in the direction of Alex and Jessica, shooting Alex in the head, shooting Jessica 3 times. So we hope that this information that we're releasing today at least is a first step in helping the public begin to have some basic understanding about what actually happened during that window of time. I want to ask Liz to come back up. She has a final couple of words that she would like to say, and then after that, then I'll open it up for questions.
Behind me.
Of course.
Behind me. Okay. At this time, I want to ask I want to ask my agency crew, which is right here behind me, backing me up, and I want to let them know, thank you so much for believing and helping me out. We stand here right now together as a team. I am proud of their support. I am so proud of that we stand for solidarity, and that me and my family will get at this moment from this press conference. I'm sorry. Let me get my glasses. I'm sorry. I didn't have my glasses. I'm emotional right now. I'm lost with words, but it's okay. It's going to be okay. These are my people right now. This is my crew. This is my back support, and I'm proud of them. I'm proud to stand solidarity with them, with my family at this moment. As social advocates, but this is what we pledge to do, and we stand for solidarity and with the people of Austin. The opportunity of abusive police practices by APD, by speaking out against APD's defective policies, by urging APD to adopt better police training, and to demand truthfulness, integrity, and accountability for Austin's police force. I hope y'all can see now that this lawsuit for my son's death is about more than speaking justice for Alex. Our lawsuits involves police accountability issues that affect all of us, every citizen of Austin. For that reason, with the support of my fellow agency advocates, I want to issue a call of action. Today, I call the people of Austin, everyone who is interested, who's interested in police reform and police accountability. It's time to raise your voice. To the city of Austin, to the city council, to Mayor Kirk Watson, to the city manager Jose Garza, and to the chief police Robin Henderson, and the other city of Austin government officials and leaders, to demand two things. First, I urge you to stand with me in calling for a full public release of APD's internal affairs investigation file for the police officer involving shooting that led to the death of my son. Second, I urge you to stand with me in calling for the police officers oversight and APD, and to make a take a second hard look at this case. I'm sorry. This is my call for action. I ask the people of Austin to speak and unite with me. Also, for the credibility of the voice that you heard, as we demand honesty and transparency from APD. Thank you all. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank y'all for caring, and thank you for coming, and thank you for making this happen for my son and myself, because this means a lot to me. And I just want to thank y'all for coming and showing up, because this really means that we're going to make a change. I am going to make a change, like I've been saying. I will make a change. It's just going to take time. And it doesn't take one person. It takes a group of people to do what I'm doing. Not just one person, a whole team of people to do what I'm doing. Because I'm challenging the city of Austin and the mayor also. I want a response from them to see what they're going to do. Because I'm not going nowhere, and I'm not going to disappear. That's what they got to know. I'm not going nowhere. And my story will be told, whether y'all like it or not. It will be told. Even with y'all, or if I have to go state to state, I will go. Because this is what happened to my son, and I will never, ever be the same again. I lost my son. He was everything to me. Everything. So I want y'all to know what they did to me. It's made me stronger for who I am right now. And have these people stand to believe for what I believe in, and the truth. The truth. That's all I want, is the truth. That's it. The truth. And they can't even do that or provide the truth. And they wonder why the people of Austin don't count on them or can't call on them, because the bad cops outweigh the good cops. Okay, remember that. Remember that. So I'm fighting a storm right now, but it's okay because I got a good group of people backing me up, and I know it'll happen within time. And thank you so much. And like I said, I'm sorry, but they took what was so precious to me, and they're going to regret it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
With that, I'm open for questions. I would ask, if you want us to ask a question, if you would just start by introducing yourself and your news organization. But with that, I'm open. Please.
Hello, I'm Jessica with CBS Austin. I had a couple of clarifying questions on the materials. First is, when was that deposition that we just saw?
So that occurred on December 5th of 2023.
And then today was the first day that they have been released to the public, or when were they released?
That's correct.
And then the materials that you mentioned that you're calling on the city of Austin to release, but they have not, are they also from the deposition, or when are they from?
We're calling on the city of Austin to release the full internal affairs investigation file for this officer-involved shooting incident. Anyone else? Please.
My name is Serena Lynn. I'm at the Statesman. So the internal affairs file, that's something that's been available to you as counsel, but is not available to us as the public.
That is correct. I do want to be accurate that the city of Austin has not taken the position that they can withhold that from the lawsuit. They have allowed us to have that. We did not receive it until after the internal affairs process had completed, but they have provided that to us in the lawsuit. But they have designated that all of those materials as confidential, which precludes us from being able to release any of those documents or the information to the public.
And are you able to say why you think it would be important for the public to see that file?
So it's vitally important. It's difficult for me to answer the question without revealing the information, right? And it sort of illustrates why our job of carefully doing the redactions and carefully screening this material for confidentiality is actually very challenging here, because the public knows full well that there has been an internal affairs investigation. That was announced by the city of Austin itself in the very first press release that it issued just a day or so, I think it was, after this happened back in 2021. It's been referred to in many additional press releases by the city of Austin itself. So, okay, what other basic facts about that internal affairs file am I even allowed to talk about right now? That's very unclear, right? And so I think for people who are interested in this issue about the G file and whether or not the state law written as it is good or needs to be modified in the ways that municipal police departments use that statute in order to maintain permanent confidentiality over internal affairs files. This case illustrates how, at least occasionally, that law leads to some absurdities, such as this situation here where everybody knows there has been an internal affairs investigation. Everybody knows the results of that investigation, no discipline for these officers. But somehow I'm not allowed to talk about any of the information that's in that file. It really doesn't make a lot of sense from a public transparency and police accountability perspective. And I think I've probably said all that I should say about it today.
Question, Carolina from Univision. Taking into account the officers are not facing any discipline, I mean, even a grand jury said they were not going to be indicted. What's really the importance of these deposition videos being released today? Why should people care about this case? Because like I said, they're not facing any consequences. There's still going to be no criminal, no disciplinary.
So the sort of first level answer to your question is that there are additional facts about this event that are being made available to the public for the very first time. So that's sort of the first level answer. But beyond that, this case, this lawsuit presents facts, presents a scenario that very clearly illustrates some police policy issues and some training issues that are centrally important in public discussion. First of those is law enforcement, let me say this again. The first is off-duty law enforcement policy. Our position, the plaintiff's position in this lawsuit, is that Officer Gutierrez's his decision to take a law enforcement action of using lethal force without having identified himself as a law enforcement officer was actually undertaken pursuant to and consistent with APD's official written policy on this issue. And so there's important questions that are presented here about whether that policy needs to be reconsidered. Similarly, with respect to particular police training issues, and there's many aspects of that, so I'm going to defer to the allegations that we put in our complaint against the City of Austin on that point. But there are some very important issues of the way that we train our police to do their job that are very centrally implicated in this case. So beyond the public, why should the public care about what's going on today? Learning about this case. The public has been interested in this case for 3 years without any real information, any new information, and then beyond that, the policy issues that are implicated here are very, very important issues of public concern. Next question.
Meredith Aldis, Fox 7. So this deposition took place December 5th, which is almost 3 years from the incident. And you showed us videos. We're going through details of remembering things. How much do you take into account the time that has passed for him to recall these details?
So your question is, how much stock do I put in that? And I think the right question is, like, how much stock should a finder of fact, ultimately like a jury, how much stock should they put in that? And I think that you saw in some of the clips, and certainly if you look at the entire deposition transcript, there's a lot of the examination is about very basic issues about, did you perceive things accurately, and are you remembering things appropriately? Those are just sort of the basic cross-examination points when somebody is providing testimony. And I think it is important to consider how good Officer Gutierrez's memories are, like it is with any witness, but there are long modules you'll see in this deposition that go to that very point. What do you remember about this? What do you remember about that? So that anyone observing that testimony, potentially a juror, would be able to form some opinion about how good is his memory on certain points, and in particular, is he telling the truth when he says that he remembers things? So I think those are crucially important points in any case that relies heavily upon witness testimony, and this is certainly one of those cases.
Short summary goal of this civil rights lawsuit.
So the goal of a civil lawsuit is to air these claims in court. It's civil litigation, so ultimately we're talking about compensation. Is the unfortunate fact of civil litigation is that there's some wrongs that can't an additional reason why we are very committed to pursuing the truth as part of this case.
Is one of the goals to reveal the G file and then essentially restart this case and restart this trial against the officers? Or, I mean, obviously you're civil, but is that one of the aspects?
I would not assert that as sort of a goal or an objective that we're seeking. Like I said, we have been provided whether there have been adequate accountability steps taken with respect to this case and what lessons can be learned about the way that those issues are handled more broadly by APD. Okay, can I just say one more thing on that? You're talking about, are we trying to get this so that we can somehow restart a trial or something like that? I want to just have you think through the absurdity of trying to actually try this case right now in a public courtroom, right? If I wanted to use materials in that internal affairs file to cross-examine a witness at trial, the same way that I might want to in some of these depositions that we can't release to you right now, is the judge going to clear the courtroom? Are we going to examine the witness in secret in a public trial? Everybody has to go sit out in the hall while I talk about internal affairs information, and now everybody gets to come back in while we talk about what the criminal investigation team did in their investigation, but that doesn't make sense, right? From a trial perspective, from a public sort of integrity, sort of issue, right? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and so it really illustrates some of the absurdities with this G-file statute, and it raises some public policy issues I think that people really need to stop and consider. Someone else, please.
Excuse me. Was the grand jury ever allowed to see anything of what was in this file, or was that something that even they couldn't see as well?
So I don't know the answer to that question because I had no involvement in the grand jury process. I think you probably know there's a statutory secrecy attached to grand jury proceedings. So I don't know directly the answer to that question. What I can say is that in the abstract, there's a legal issue that's sometimes referred to as concurrent investigations that are necessitated by a U.S. Supreme Court case called Garrity. So that what that Supreme Court case says is that an officer who potentially is facing criminal charges can, in fact, be compelled to give what's called a Garrity statement as a condition of their employment, provided that there is a firewall established between the internal affairs people who would take that statement and the criminal investigation team. Again, I'm just speaking in the abstract about the way things that concurrent investigations are typically handled. And so the typical practice would then be to not share the internal affairs specific information with the criminal investigation team, because doing so essentially poisons the criminal investigation. And so typically IA material would not be shared with the criminal investigation team. I think that perhaps that answers your question as best I can.
Do you want to have your day in court, or do you plan to settle?
We certainly intend to have our day in court. Yes.
We watched the Christopher Taylor trial, which was a different type of case. It was a criminal case. We watched D.A. Garza's office, and the judge, the whole court, basically watched the officers test a lie, and perjure themselves, and it's okay. Is that something that that's been? It seems that the city's trying to hide some information. The second part, the city seems to be trying to hide information. What would their purpose be to hide information? Like, what would their what motivation and outcome did they get by doing stuff like that? And how are y'all going to handle the types of problems, the errors in the Mike Ramos case with the testifying in Travis County courts?
So I'm not really comfortable addressing the Ramos case. I'm very familiar with it, but I didn't sit through any of that testimony myself. And so I haven't seen any transcripts or anything like that, so I'm a little uncomfortable commenting on testimony that happened in a different forum. To your question about what are the city of Austin's motives, again, they would have to speak to that. I don't want to speak to their motives. What I will say is that I don't, as I stand here today, have any real criticism of the city of Austin and the way they've handled their internal affairs files in the sense of complying with state law, in a sense. They can sort of make choices to release what they choose to release, but as I understand it, the state law as written gives them at least some scope of protection for certain internal affairs files under this G-file statute. So I don't want to get into the city of Austin sort of motives and intentions and all this sort of thing. I think those are great questions to ask them. But in touching on that issue, I wanted the press to have an understanding as to why we couldn't release perhaps as much of the materials as we would like to release, and that we have called upon the city of Austin to release in this case, and to point out how, at least in the circumstances that we face here, that in our view at least, this illustrates the absurdity of the G-file statute and raises considerations about thinking about whether that statute should be changed. Take one more.
Just a clarification on something you said earlier about the revelation of the videos that you showed. Just what that was.
Oh, so I chose the series of clips that I chose because they deal with what I feel is one of the primary factual revelations today, and that revelation specifically is Officer Gutierrez's account of what happened, so his version of events, and as part of that version of events, his contention that he did not see Jessica Arellano before he shot her 3 times. There's other information that's in the complaint that we filed, the materials that we've been able to make available to you, but I think that most people are going to think that's the one that stood out, and so we picked the clips that we picked today because they were dealing with that issue, and because the nature of the clips that we showed you had to do with this physical demonstration that's really important to see and not just watch it on the transcript. I'll take one more if anybody has a last wrap-up question. Go ahead.
Sorry, so is that contention that he did not see Jessica different than what he had initially said in 911 transcripts, for example?
That was not addressed at all in the 911 transcript. And so in terms of the information that's been publicly released, I'm not aware of anything, any public information or any public availability of this notion that his version of events included this fact that, in his account at least, that he did not see Jessica before she was shot 3 times. I want to stop there. I want to thank all you guys for coming. We're going to take a short break here, but we'll be around if any of you want to follow up, with other more detailed questions. We'll be around here for a good part of the afternoon. I want to thank all of you guys for coming, and thank you for your continued interest in this case.